Yes.
You pledged not to spend B-plus money on C-minus players, and yet you vocally supported the Oliver Perez contract.
I did.
Can you address that?
I'm glad that you brought this up. Certainly, like I said to you before, I will not be perfect, but the Perez contract is instructive in the way in which I will go forward. Oliver Perez was a pitcher with a terrific strikeout rate who was 27 years old with no history of injury. And so for me, that combination of what he had just provided, which was league average or better pitching the last 2 years, and what he could well provide, made it worthwhile to put him in place. Now, that said, I think the other half of it is to admit those mistakes frankly, and so to realize at a certain point when it is necessary to cut bait on a particular player. There won't be any perfect signing, but if money is used intelligently, you have the opportunity to turn around and not let one mistake cripple your team. I would use the Boston Red Sox as an example, who had Mike Lowell signed to a 4-year deal at comparable money to Oliver Perez. And Lowell certainly had trouble succeeding. The Red Sox then turned around and went out and they got Adrian Beltre. And the reason they were able to do that for comparable money to what Lowell was making was because so much of their other money had been intelligently spent, and there was a lot of cost control in other players that they had. So this would be the way that we would deal with mistakes, because inherently baseball is going to be a game of flaws, and especially when you're trying to project pitchers going forward. But I'm glad that you asked. Yes?
Would you consider yourself to be a sabermetric candidate?
It's an interesting question. Certainly, stats are a big part of what inform everything that I do. But I certainly don't view sabermetrics alone as a reason to be making such decisions. I do happen to think that the sabermetric community at large gets a bum rap when it comes to that there are no shortage of sabermetricians who are, of course, eager to watch as many ball games in person as I am. In the coming weeks, I'll be talking about some of my campaign team, but rest assured that those who rely on stats and those who rely on more traditional methods are both going to be a part of it, number one, and number two, that both of them are a blend of both sabermetric and traditional scouting. Yes?
Though I know you are looking towards the future, for this next trade deadline, would you have a dream move, and what would you be willing to give up for it?
It's an interesting question. I don't think, strictly speaking, there is a dream move to make or not make. A lot of it has to do with what is available, taking opportunities when they occur, and going forward with them. Several years ago, for instance, I wrote about a first baseman in the minor league system of the Florida Marlins named Adrian Gonzalez, who I thought would be a good pickup. He was coming off of an elbow injury and had not displayed power, but had previously been a #1 overall pick. He was able to be acquired actually first by Texas and then by San Diego for very little. And taking those opportunities when they occur, I think, is vital. Because once again, that's an example of a young, cost-controlled player with upside. And anytime you can fill your roster and indeed your minor leagues with such players, it raises the possibility that, number one, you don't have to overspend on free agents to man your bench. And number two, you have the opportunity to get a player who, in Gonzalez's case, becomes one of the best players in the National League. So these are the types of moves that you have in mind. I will say, of course, that it is my hope that whatever moves are made at the trade deadline are something that help the Mets not just in 2010, but in the years to come as well.